Thank you. I guess there was the choice of running around the Altiplano of Peru or jungles or whatever to try and find a new mine. But a few guys a few years ago came up with the idea, and we've all been struggling with financing projects at an earlier stage. Some of my colleagues in the audience here, we worked together in investment banking. There's probably 12 banks originally that used to lend money. Now there's probably one or two. And it's these early stage projects that we're trying to get off the ground, the ones 5 million space. So again, thanks to Mining Journal, they've supported us since we were born, if you like, and including a lovely comment when we officially launched in January. MINEXIA trading platform is a game changer. We've just got to prove that now. I promise there's no JORC reserves, there's no 43101s on this, but I couldn't resist a photo of a drill rig, so we've got that on the front. The fund police statement, which my compliance team have told me I have to put on there. We are FCA regulated, but we're not recommending any of the stocks we put on the platform, but obviously we've got a very detailed investment committee, and you'll see the rogues gallery later with the people that are on that. We're only going to be putting quality assets on there. And our friends as well, DMT, are going to explain a bit later on the technicalities and how due diligence has changed, so they'll follow after us. Okay, I thought rather than just pitching in our private market, both from the issuer side, from your projects, and from the investor side, from your money, I thought we'd pose a few questions on why we're doing this. So we pulled this graph from S&P Global. So the mining financing market globally is worth between 10 and 30 billion a year, depending on which years you look at and which projects are around. And things are picking up. I think there's a pointer on here. No, that's not working. So you can see actually when MJ Select started doing this conference, and there was a kick up in the budgets in that was spent from the global mining companies. Now, I don't know whether that's coincidence, but also we started looking at building this platform then. And as you can see, the exploration budgets now are up to about 10 billion, which is a gradual increase, as we can see down here on the bottom right-hand side. And we're hoping to benefit from that uptake in exploration spend. However, of that 10 million, most of that is replacing near mine production as production levels drop, etc. So it's a lot of the majors spending money near their own current production sites. Only just under 3 was actually raised for exploration. So the numbers are getting smaller and smaller and smaller as we dig into this. And as you can see on the pie chart on the right-hand side, about half of that is on equity. So we're trying to help solve that slice. We're not going to be able to do all of it, but I think we're going to be complementary some of the brokered and the private placement deals that are out there. And we see, we've seen the offtake and the streaming and the royalties deals becoming more and more important to a more complicated capital structure for these companies as reliance on one source, whether it's a brokered equity deal or whether it's something like Orion or RCF or something like that. The reliance on one source is moving away. Again, why? One of the highlights, and it was in the Ernst & Young review last year, was the digital effectiveness. And Oliver touched on, blockchain technology. We're looking at, traceability of cobalt. Samsung aren't going to let your cobalt in your phone come from, some 12-year-old kid mining it in the middle of the Congo. The traceability in the blockchain is becoming much more important. And likewise on the funding side. And that's why we think a technological savvy platform like this that can get the issuers together with the investors. Some of these investors are lost and forgotten by the brokers. If you and I want to put 25, 50 grand into a deal, very often the brokers are filling these deals with our pension funds or whatever, and we get squeezed out to zero. So it's allowing that side of things as well. And that was what we were very keen, or the founders of the idea of this were very keen to rectify as well. But as we think commodity prices are increasing, okay, gold hit 1,400 yesterday, and that's a bit of Iran tension and US interest rates. But we think within MINEXIA and within our private market that these commodity cycles are hitting the wall and they're on the rebound. But the financing is dragging behind. And I've been working on projects where we've gone to find money and we're all scrambling around for the same pot of cash. The pot of cash in Toronto has fled to cryptocurrencies and cannabis, and there's some left behind in mining, and we need extra access, and we need the smaller retail investors that perhaps been forgotten about to some extent by the brokers to allow them to access it as well. And as I've said there, some of the sources of investment are either retiring or heading off into other areas. So this is a huge opportunity that we see, and we are hoping to enable it for you guys to deploy your capital into these smaller projects as they come on. I think we've all seen this graph in various forms. I've certainly used it a few times, but it just explains for those that don't know, the sort of progression of a project within a large company or a single asset company, and many of you that are running your own projects have worked your way up this line. And the financing ideas are to get up those little jumps. Those little jumps can be $1 million, they could be $5 million. And we're looking to be a complementary method of raising that money to get you guys up those steps. Okay, we get up to the top where the curve really steepens, and yeah, the grown-up financing is there if you like, the RCFs of this world, the Orion Finance, the banks if they're still out there lending money, and the streaming deals. But again, this sort of platform technology could still be complementary to this. And it also will, as we develop, it'll enable peer-to-peer trading, so we do both private and public companies. So if you've got private stock, it's often it's liquid by its definition. So with the blockchain technology, we're going to develop that sort of peer-to-peer trading. Okay, so these are the reasons why. Who are we? And some of the comments there from both Proactive. So they kindly did an interview with me when we first started. And it's really giving that access. It's giving you access to the quality deals that are out there. We will filter them. There are thousands and thousands of early stage projects out there. I think Chris mentioned earlier there's 2,200 listed stocks between the three main exchanges, and choosing those is difficult. And as I say, whilst we're not recommending stock, we're certainly filtering through our investment committee. From the issuer side, it's accessing other people. It's broadening the net. I think Neil was saying he knows his 40-odd shareholders on a first-name basis, but that does give you illiquidity. We're trying to broaden that profile, broaden that net for you as well. So going on to how it worked for, you're a gold mining company in West Africa, let's say. You're trying to raise $3 to $4 million. You're using a broker as well. But the benefits for this is it's simplifying some of your capital raising. You are gaining exposure to a diversified pool of liquidity, other players in the market. And actually, because of the platform and it's much more efficient, we're actually only charging 4% cash and no warrants, whereas a lot of the brokered solutions are a little bit more expensive. Again, we'd like to see that money go back into the ground and develop the share price and the projects. How does it work? So starting off in the bottom left-hand corner and following arrows around, and hopefully you end up with a picture somewhat in the middle by the time we've got up that curve of the development, is you register the company online. Our investment committee will look through it. Chris was saying earlier, he looks a lot more into the economics of the project. I think we're earlier stage in that. So for us, the management team is crucial, their past history, who's on the board, obviously the sources and uses of funds. We don't want directors of the company flying around the world business class going to conference after conference. We want to see that money going into the ground, because the levels of money we're looking at for this platform are sort of, as I said, the 1 to 5 million space. That can run out pretty quickly if you're not careful on your spend. So that's key to us. Obviously the geology, the jurisdiction, and the commodity itself. I unfortunately know nothing about Russian geology, so that for me is a harder, for me to get my head around a Russian project to be a lot harder than, let's say, Southeast Asia, West Africa, or Latin America. You work up around the tree there, and if the company is launched onto the platform, we've put all the documentation we can on there that we think will assist the new investors and help them invest in your company. These documents are all uploaded. You announce the offering onto the platform. It may be on there for 2 weeks, The whole process of this takes between 3 weeks, up to 3 weeks, to get completed. And then we grant you access to the investors that have come on the other side of the platform. So it's not quite speed dating, but you are trying to buddy up the people that are on the investor side and the issuer side. And then we close the offer and you obviously receive the funds in the normal way you would with a broker deal. And as I say, this can be complementary to other forms of financing, and we've done that already. We've closed one deal. We've got 2 on the platform at the moment, and they have brokered offerings going on in the back at the same time. I'll explain those ones in a second. So that's where we are at the moment. We are very, very new. I mean, we are a startup, but as I said at the beginning, how are we going to disrupt the mining industry, and certainly the mining finance industry? Between us as a team, we thought this was the best way of doing it, rather than running around the Altiplano of Peru. So we were involved in Kincora Copper, which closed a couple of weeks ago. That is in the same district as Oyu Tolgoi in Mongolia. If it's a tenth of the size of Oyu Tolgoi, it's going to be absolutely monumental. They were looking to raise 6 million Canadian. They're TSXV listed. They had some cornerstone investors in Hong Kong, which has been publicly announced, so that gave it its initial momentum. And they also put that on the platform with us, and by the time they finished, they were oversubscribed at 6.2 million. None of the investors, and certainly none of the investors that came on the platform for the investment, got squeezed back, which I think is one of the other key messages and one of the key attractive points for the platform. Is we're not going to say, look, sorry, Fidelity are in for half of this and they're not going to take a penny less, therefore you know, Richard Lloyd at 25,000, sorry, we don't really need your money. That is something we're going to drive very, very carefully, and we explain to the CEOs and CFOs of the companies, we want our investors to take part in this. Likewise, we do look at private companies as well, and our investors are going to want to see, you know, an IPO or some sort of capital market exit within a 2-year frame. So we have those conversations with the management, make sure that's happening, because we want to protect our investors as best we can. The 2 that are on at the moment, Vendetta is about 25 kilometers west of Cannington, which is South 32's lead zinc mine that spun out of the BHP Billiton Group. That, as I think, is also public. Yeah, it is public. That, you know, hasn't got forever to run. It's an underground mine. Vendetta is a polymetallic project just next door. They're raising 1.5 million. We're at about 750 at the moment. So well over halfway on that one. And again, not all of it is on the platform by any stretch of the imagination. There is a broker deal happening at the same time, and their own private placements. Aftermath has just gone on. That is a Chilean, primarily silver deal. Yes, they have all their water rights, which is probably something DMT will come on to when they talk about their due diligence processes later. And again, they're raising 1.5 million. That's only just gone on, and we're at about 550, 600 Canadian, 600,000 Canadian on that one. So again, we've got 3 great deals. It's crucial for us that we have quality deals getting on there early and developing momentum, because our investors want to see something in the shop window, and our issuers want to see their stock being shifted and new investors coming to the game, which is sort of our modus operandi, if you like. A couple more in the pipeline that are going through that process that I was explaining to you earlier. There's actually a UK-based precious metals deal we're looking at. It's going to be a lot smaller, but we figured with our initial UK investor base, and as I say, we're FCA regulated, we thought a local deal would be worthwhile looking at. Richard Williams Strongwell at 75 million might be a bit big for this at the moment, but we'll get there one day. There's another base metals project in Africa, in southern Africa. There's a precious metals project coming on. Hopefully in August. We're going to put 2 on a month. That's going to be the plan, in various sizes. And another base. So we've got 2 base metals in Africa, another Aussie deal, and a UK deal coming along. And from the investor's side, this is, I guess, our primary drive, as well as, I don't think we're going to have any lack of projects that once certainly anyone who's worked in the mining industry, or CFO or CEO of a mining company, if there's a sniff of capital, they'll probably go racing after it. So we're going to have no lack of people wanting to put projects on the platform. But for us, what is crucial is getting the investors signed up. So you'll have noticed when you logged into the Wi-Fi this morning, you went straight to our homepage, or at least I hope you did. So you at least got a taste of what the platform looks like. So I'd encourage anyone here, especially from the investor side. So we've got high net worth, we've got family office, and individuals like you and I, who want to attract themselves to this and be able to deploy capital that's not necessarily putting a finger in the air to one of the 2,000 stocks that Chris mentioned earlier in the introductory speech. You'll see the deals as they come on. You'll see that all the documentation they put on there, so their JORC reserves, their 43101s, feasibility studies, etc., tailings dam studies, and all the information that they think and they know that will push the project to finalisation of the financing. Similar process, but this one only takes, this can take a matter of hours. The one bit that does need to happen is the KYC and AML. If we get any fraudulent individuals, any trace of money laundering on this, the platform will die a death quite quickly. Likewise, fraudulent issuers or fraudulent projects. So that's our biggest care, and I'm probably answering one of the questions that we're not allowed to ask. Thank you, Oliver. So, the burning questions I've always had from people when they've come up to the stand or have met previously is, how do you protect against that? We do that through a secure group in Switzerland called Mango Pay. From the investor side, it's the usual, passport, driving license, utility bill, that sort of thing. If we need further inquiry, we will do so. And there's a little bit more involved on the issuer side in terms of the directors of the company, etc., and past history. But that, for a regulated company and a platform such as ours, is absolutely integral to what we're trying to do. And likewise, you'll access the offering document, say, an expression of interest, which is non-binding, and then subscription agreements will come out from the company at the same time as they're coming out, perhaps from a brokered private placement or a brokered deal. Funds are transferred, and then you'll receive your shares in due course in the same way you would with any other deal. But all this then is traceable on the platform, and as the community grows and our technology, which is already there, and this has been developing over the last 2.5 years. So the platform and the website has been tested and tested and tested to death. Oliver's comment about the blockchain technology, certainly with the private deals, will have a peer-to-peer trading ability, which I think again is key for the liquidity. Obviously, if you've got a listed stock, you can always sell that on the stock exchange. Most companies, certainly in Canada, you've got a 4-month waiting period. They may, as an issuer, they may install a minimum ticket as well. But the idea is to get it a lot more amenable to smaller investors and perhaps the retail, apologies to any brokers in the room, but the retail investor that's almost been forgotten about or is unloved now. There's the Rogues Gallery. Tim Livesey is our chairman, CEO of Oriel, or Stratex as it used to be with people with longer memory. Guy with clothy ears, cauliflower ears, and the second one there. James Bellamy was the guy that came up with the idea. He was, his background was control risks and the risk side of a lot of these projects. Drew's one of our technical guys. David works more on the fund side, and then our advisory board sort of run along the bottom there. Some names you'll know, and they all input to this investment committee that we document. It's strictly run. There's not really a blackballing process, but we need quality projects on this platform. Otherwise, it certainly isn't going to help our investors or go to the moon, which is what we're hoping for. And some of our partners, all of these people have supported us. They've seen the story, they get it, and they've said, it's about time. We needed someone to come out and do this, someone brave enough to do it. We've put our foot forward. We've built the platform. It's launched. We've got 3 deals on it. We hope to put a couple on there a month. We need to, obviously, with shows like this also, get the word out there and build our investor base. Without our investor base, as with any retail opportunity, that's where the volume is needed. So you can see DMT on there. They're going to talk to you in a second about the whys and wherefores of the due diligence. A lot of these people pay to be on our platform and have supported us. So you've got the corporate comms, you've got the Aspen Monk Group, which obviously is the mining journal and events like this, and SRK on the right-hand side there as well. That's all. I've got 31 seconds left, so I can't ask one of my own planted questions that I put in the audience. Sorry about that. But we're up at stand 9 by the coffee bar. There's hard copies of this presentation and a much thicker deck with a lot more detail about onboarding as an issuer or signing up as an investor and why the hell we're doing this. We encourage you to come and see us. We can see the platform live. It's on one of the laptops next to our stand. and we'll field. There's 3 or 4 of us up there for the next day or so. We'll field any questions you have. So, Oliver, thank you very much for chairing this, and thank you for your time. And we'll see you upstairs in the corner by the coffee bar.